All right, so talking about warm-up strategies for longevity and satisfaction. Before we actually dive into this, I'm doing this off the cuff, completely unscripted. I had this idea 20 minutes ago while I was meditating and laying there with my headphones on in complete silence. I felt like this was a subject that wasn't getting the attention it deserved. And I'm connected to it as well. So I want to share this with you. Fulfillment, longevity, satisfaction. Longevity, it just refers to the consistency over a long period of time of something you're doing. The longevity of a joint is its life, its health, its ability to sustain over a long period of time. The longevity of an object is related to its quality, its build, the material, its construction, and its use. The longevity of a warm-up or a practice, because the warm-up always leads to something, is important to consider, because I think that there's a disconnect between training and warming up. See, when I was in school and getting started with my own bodyweight practice, the warm-up was just this thing that I started to learn I was supposed to include in my training to get me ready for the training. But the training was what I focused my mind on. The training was what I was thinking about all day, planning. The warm-up never really received much attention. And then when I showed up to it, when I started doing my training for the day, my warm-up was always just a get it done. It was a thing that I rushed through and never really gave the attention to until later, when I started to have these experiences accidentally of real satisfaction with my warm-up. And they happened to me, for me, on occasions where I wasn't planning and therefore was more receptive to the idea that I'm just going to move, just going to try and feel what my body is telling me and receive and therefore play out or act out the warm-up in a way that feels satisfying. And I think satisfying contributes to longevity. If you're on the path, warming up, training, approaching your practice as a chore, longevity is out of the picture because you're not honing your ability to listen. You're actually doing the opposite. You're suppressing the voice and you're practicing suppression of that, but also a focus on a goal or mission that mechanizes your ability to just disregard everything else. So, for instance, you want to squat a certain weight, you want to handstand for a certain number of seconds, you want to get on one arm, you want to get your press, you want to get your splits. And so you've got this plan. Programming's for a different episode or talk, but you've got a plan, and you're going to follow that fucking plan no matter what, right? What if you don't sleep? What if you're partner is sick? What if you are under a tremendous work stress, financial stress? What if you are eating shit food? What if you... All of these what ifs contribute to how you feel when you show up. Showing up, fantastic, high five, you're there. But now you cannot approach training both hoping to achieve your goal and not listening to your body, or not learning to listen to your body. Now, doing that repeatedly results in injury, results in delayed progress, plateaus, just the opposite of longevity and satisfaction, which is, total hate, a sort of distaste for training. You have this goal, but you also hate the training to get there. That's an awful situation to be in. And the longevity piece, well, you typically injure yourself, or you typically just aren't able to stay consistent because you fucking hate what you're doing. So I hope you can tell that this is a dear subject to me, because I've thought about it for so much. It's been such a piece in or an important idea and concept in development for me over the past few years. As I am now about a decade into a bodyweight practice, moving towards more advanced training goals, objectives, but also teaching and putting more time and thought into the concepts that I'm sharing with people, how I communicate those, and what matters. The bigger picture. The bigger picture is not the goal. The bigger picture is the training. It's the thing you're going to be doing. The goal happens someday out in the future. You don't know. The training is what you do daily. That's what you actually have to worry about. It's what you actually have to work on and perfect. And then the goal is the result of optimal training. But optimal training is not suppression. The optimal training is not ignorance. The optimal training is not push through. The optimal training is listen, relax, and understand. So that's my rant. But warm-up should be about longevity and satisfaction. And the result of satisfying warming up is actually, it's sort of a happiness. I think of it as a playfulness, a feeling of amazement for what your body can do, and a real, a feeling of true productivity as well. Something that I've come to know very well now is the messages your body sends you when you do something right. I think we get used to feeling like rather disconnected from the body and almost frustrated with the body because it's not adjusting the way we want it to. It's not doing the things quick enough. It's not learning the skill fast enough, strong enough, big enough, flexible enough. The list goes on and on. But when you can give the body what it's asking for, the feeling in return is this inner peace, is a sensation of just pure bliss and joy. It feels good. It's something you can't accidentally, I did find it accidentally, but it's something that once you explore or experience, you want more of. That's the natural urge that I've experienced. So, how do you do that? How? I gave you the why. Now, how do you do this? Okay? I've been moving around and wiggling about here. And the truth is, I've been listening to my body while I'm speaking. Trying to just get a picture for how I'm feeling today. It's a Monday. I'm down in my filming space in the basement, and I am well slept, but I taught a class this morning, and I'm trying to feel with my awareness where in my body I'm maybe tight, maybe holding tension. And I'm just going to start with something small. For me, that's often some shaking, some twisting. And I'm going to do a little experiment here. I'm going to time myself warming up the way to the point that I feel like I'm good to go. I'm warming up for handstands here. Now, I do have in mind a basic order of operations. When I warm up, I want to meet the hips. I want to warm up the parts of the body that I'm going to be using, which for handstands is wrists, shoulders, hips, primarily. Wrists, shoulders, hips. This is also just warming up. So it's not like I'm dropping into a full-on flexibility session for the next 35 minutes either. I'm just preparing. Sometimes, if I'm feeling up to it, I will do some kicks. But today I'm not feeling up to it. So I have an alright passive range. In forward fold for hamstrings. I'm always pretty frustrated with my passive range in hip abduction or middle splits. All I'm doing, guys, is asking my body, metaphorically speaking, through movement, if it wants to go there, if it wants to do something. I have movements in mind that I often repeat, but if you show up with a plan, that's great. You just need to be completely open to the possibility that that plan is not going to work for you for that day. And we've been conditioned to believe that, for one, we need a plan. Always, productivity needs a plan. The prerequisite to a goal is a plan. How do you get there? But that also leads us to believe that the goal is the only important focal point. That the goal is the thing. And I don't know about you, but if I'm doing something like training handstands, which I know is going to take me a long time, I don't want to be focused on the goal the whole time. I don't want to not enjoy the process. I'm going to enjoy the process. And maybe you say you want to just focus on the goal, not worry about the training. You just show up, good, bad days, whatever. You can do all that. You're going to find yourself in a very dark hole, though, alone. And I know it for a fact because I've been there. One way to think about warming up is the positions you're going to use for your training. how can you get to those positions? How can you walk the path getting to those positions in a way that suits your current readiness level? And by readiness, I mean all of the past, we'll say 48 hours worth of life lead up to your readiness level right now. Maybe that means you are well slept. Maybe it means you're not well slept. But all of it matters. All of it is important. And your body will thank you for not ignoring the signs. Not ignoring the signs. And a funny thing will happen when you start to listen. You will experience days where you need to take it slower, rest, deload, altogether just not do the practice. And you will also experience days where you feel like you are powerful, just strong. You'll feel like everything you've done is coming together. Those days make everything else worth it. The other thing that happens is when you are ignorant to the signs of the body, to the regular stress of life, you kind of feel stiff all the time. You know, you kind of feel like shit all the time. You feel like shit in your practice. Then you also feel like shit outside of practice. But if you can listen during practice, I have found that I feel better out of practice. I feel better about what I'm doing. My body feels better. I don't hold as much tension. I sleep better. in these positions, it's not like I'm not trying. I'm not actually trying to exploit the position, as in stretch or warm up or use the position. It's more like I'm able to do that because I listen to the body and give it these positions when that's what it needs. You get clear signs. You're tight or you're not. And most people are obsessed with the positions that they don't have or can't use, if that makes sense. And so they spend much of their time working towards those positions, but as a result, the body gets defensive about those positions. You can play little games with yourself, as in, from a position, what other positions are available to me. And I think the big takeaway from this whole video is actually just disconnect. Don't just take some suggested warm-up at face value and do 5 sets of forward rocks, point your toes, and then lift your legs 5 times and go. You're not taking responsibility for your training. It's one of the reasons that people fall off. Progress doesn't happen because they don't actually work on the core value of training, which is connection to you. It's learning about you, working on your body. No one else does that except you. I will often just start with a body part that feels like it's in need of some attention, and just see where things go from there. What kind of positions can I use or access? I do incorporate using tools. Some of my favorites are bands. Particularly, I like bands because you can adjust the pull, the tension, and they let the hands move outside of the strict movement path, such as like a stick would keep my hands in this plane of motion the whole movement. I find that it just does not, over the long term, contribute very well to a feeling of satisfaction, because I'm doing more forcing of my body than I am doing moving. Cracking is obviously going to happen. Sometimes it feels good. Sometimes it's a little alarming. I think it's usually a sign of relief and your body's way of saying that you are doing the right thing. Because the joint, or joints, need that movement. One thing I hope you will see during the work I'm doing here is that I'm not using any of the warm-up to do strenuous work or to do any max effort, max stretch. I'm purposefully just waking the nervous system up. This is going to be extremely important if you work at a desk, or any sedentary job for that matter. Even for the wrists, I used to do a strict warm-up, multiple sets of 10 to 20 rocks, with the intention of getting my wrists so mobilized that I could lean over into an almost planche style lean and keep my palms on the ground. Now, the warm-up is all about feel. The wrists do not need to be overworked, overstretched. We're nearing 20 minutes now, and that's what I would say a good warm-up is. Roughly 20 minutes of feeling it out, of movement. Haven't really stopped at any point. For the most part, I've covered hips, shoulders, wrists. There's no equal proportion of one or the other. Not concerned with it for the most part. Some things, though, that did happen. I wasn't thinking about anything else, actually, other than moving my body. And just listening for what the body needed. Trying to be receptive to the signals to either not do something or do something.